It's been a little over a month since the Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 0 movie came out, and since then, many have been informed of Geto's backstory and have been introduced to the omnipotent Okkotsu Yuta. Following that conversation, we're going to be talking about Yuta Okkotsu, the details of his intricately crafted character, and why all of these things would make him a better MC than Itadori. Let's get into it. Who he is. Before we get into the genius of Yuta Okkotsu, let's talk a little bit about the guy. Yuta Okkotsu is a special grade Jujutsu sorcerer and the original protagonist of Jujutsu Kaisen, being the main focus of Volume 0, the original 4 chapters that were compiled into JJK after being released on Jump Giga. The reason he was recruited into Jujutsu High was because he was haunted by the extremely powerful cursed spirit of his childhood best friend, Rika. We'll get more into that later. He has a very interesting name. Before we get into that whole complex Rika situation, let's look at Yuta's name and the meaning behind it. Yes, it might seem like a very small and trivial thing, but Yuta Okkotsu is a name inundated with meaning, ones that match very well with him as a character. The name Yuta itself consists of many characters, which, when broken down, stand for grief and having the utmost of something. So his name put together means having the utmost grief. If you know Yuta, you know grief has been a strong recurring theme in his life. His life has been exceedingly tough and filled with it as a result of the powerful spirit of his deceased childhood friend haunting him. The spirit would regularly lash out and harm anybody who tried to hurt him in any way. This not only resulted in Yuta having a fairly lonely life, but it also had an effect on his physical appearance, with his most notable physical features being the permanent bags under his eyes, very likely a result and a hint at years of restless nights. Aside from that detail, Yuta's name is kind of ironic, since his Yuta can be homophonous with another Yuta, which denotes someone bold, but also someone with a lot of friends, which Yuta would eventually become, but did not start as. Then there's Okkotsu, which is an odder name than normal, since it's made up of some fascinating characters when broken down. Let's start with the character of Otsu, which can be connected to the Asian philosophy of the 5 phases, being specifically tied to the element of wood, which can symbolize growth and development, especially early in one's life. This is brilliant, because it matches up perfectly well with Yuta and his own cursed energy discovery and urge to grow and control it as the story progresses. Aside from that, Otsu is also the yin component of wood, which means it is associated with the negativity in nature, alluding to the difficulties Yuta had in order to grow as a person. Given that yin is feminine in nature, this is especially true with Rika. Then there's the kotsu component of his name, which means adept or gifted. So, Okkotsu may imply someone with a talent for growth, which is most likely an oblique allusion to Yuta's own cursed ability, and more significantly, his potential with it. Impressive ancestry. Another category Yuta beats Yuji in is his ancestry. Yuta's family name is Okkotsu, and it turns out that he has a bloodline connection to Sugawara Michizane, who is known to be a talented poet, scholar, politician, but most importantly, sorcerer. He is referred to in the Shinto faith as the god of learning, but in the Sorcerer Society, he's known as one of the 3 vengeful spirits. And Yuta, being a direct descendant of him, automatically makes him one of the strongest people in Jujutsu Kaisen. Aside from being related to such a powerful being, Yuta has also been confirmed to be a distant relative of none other than Gojo Satoru. Being related to Gojo also means that he has the potential of surpassing him as the most powerful Jujutsu sorcerer. His incredible power. Sure, Itadori is a powerful vessel, but at the end of the day, that's kind of all he is, a vessel. And so we think one of the main things that makes Yuta such an amazing main character is because he himself has incredible powers that are not only some of the greatest in the Jujutsu world, but also the most complex. Enter Rika. Cursed Rika basically serves as Yuta's acting guardian spirit, looking over and guarding him when she is called upon to do so or believes he is in grave danger. Honestly, it's a little insane because she's prepared to mutilate someone for something as little as bullying him. However, there is one particular aspect that makes Yuka and Rika such a terrifyingly unique pair. According to the spirit expert Geto, it's her infinite supply of curse energy. And with her being tied to Yuta, he too has an unending source of curse energy. This makes Yuta very powerful, and someone you wouldn't want to go up against. Although Yuka is still learning how to control his energy, Rika is usually employing her energy through means such as the engagement ring that she used to propose to him as a child, or his sword. Even so, he occasionally overdoes it and destroys his items. But once he and Rika are in sync, he he is able to leverage her extreme infinite potential to utilize his own unique ability, the cursed copying technique. This unique technique allows Yuta to imitate any curse technique he has seen used before. The setback for this technique, though, seems to be that because Yuta is somewhat inexperienced as a sorcerer, he isn't able to direct the endless flow of cursed energy in a way that reaches its full potential. But Yuta is a character who is able to learn very fast, and there's no doubt that after enough training, he can be just as good, if not better, than the people whose curse techniques he's copying. One thing to note is that the copying technique seems especially intriguing, since it most likely stems from Yuta's own idolization of people around him. Taking their struggles into account, he is able to transform his use of the cursed spirit into something that can genuinely resemble the individuals he admires. With that being said, Yuta's trump card is still Rika, especially when it's fully formed. Rika just being free is a threat to her surrounding areas. This is because she wastes no time in taking care of any surrounding curses near Yuta that may have threatened him. And on top of all the incredible abilities she exhibits, she's still got some hidden tricks up her sleeve. One of them being able to greatly increase her supply of limitless curse energy in correspondence to how much love Yuta has for her. Although Rika is already an infinite source of energy, when Yuta hugs or shows her more love, she is able to go way beyond her limit and emanate even more cursed energy. This new high gives her so much energy, she can deflect full-powered assaults from a special grade spirit and 4462 spirit Uzumaki together into one single attack. And for Yuta to be tied to a curse so powerful and still be able to utilize it is pretty insane and no doubt a remarkable feat. And Yuta is only a mere 16 years old handling all this. Yep, he's that young and already far ahead on the road to becoming the most powerful sorcerer. And if you're thinking, oh, but Yuta's not actually that powerful, he almost always entirely depends on Rika, you're very wrong, because as it turns out, Rika didn't just become a curse out of the blue. As we mentioned before, Yuta has some very strong lineage, one to Sugawara, aka one of the big three vengeful spirits. So, because he's a direct descendant of him tied with his great amount of cursed energy, he is the one who accidentally cursed Rika and bound both of them together. And though Rika reassures him that she was happier with him as a curse than she was when she was a human, he still feels awful about it. And though many may trash him for it, we think that his strong feelings of guilt and despair just make him that much more human, and generally a great character. His growth as a character. Personally, we think that one thing that makes any character a very well-written and likable one is growth. Since our first introduction to Yuta, we have seen him exhibit an admirable amount of growth. He went from being someone who was full of grief and doubtful about himself and his life to someone who is now confident, strong, and wants to live a life protecting the ones he loves. His growth has been especially nice to see in the manga, too, as he's progressed into a fine swordsman after training abroad for a year. Though his design changed, now giving him a more imposing look with slicked back hair, he's still the kind-hearted, caring, and loyal friend we all know him to be and wish we had. On a final note, Yuta is not the typical positive and bubbly protagonist we're used to seeing in shonen. We think that's what makes him so much better as an MC and unique. Sorry, Itadori. We still love you, though. Okay, guys, that concludes our video. Click one of the 4 videos on the screen right now. See you in the next one. Till then, take care.